get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
You're a crook. You're a cheat and a swindler. That's what you are. How can you do a thing like this? Build up a little boy's hopes and then smash all his dreams to pieces. You're an inhuman monster.
I said good day.
So Stellar Blade just seems to be one of those games that cannot catch a break when it comes to having a little bit of controversy surrounding it, no matter what the situation is. And so we're going to talk about some of this latest one going on. It has to do with the Stellar Blade coming out on PC. So, the headline does show Stellar Blade on PC has been blocked in over 130 countries, catching its developer by surprise. So, it just kind of seems like most of the controversies that does come up with Stellar Blade, most of it seems to stems from Sony themselves. And so, we're going to go ahead and get into this here. It says Stellar Blade is coming to PC on June 11th, but strangely, the Steam version of the game won't be available for over 130 countries. That is a lot. This news has come as a surprise to developer ShiftUp, as the studio has been bombarded with messages on its social media platforms from players sharing screenshots of the game being blocked from sale in their respective countries. Major markets like Europe and US are unaffected, but the game will be unavailable to players in other countries like Bangladesh, Fiji, and Botswana. All right, so what's the cause here? That's currently unclear, but this might be a case that's similar to the Helldivers 2. Shortly after the game was released on PC, it became mandatory for players on that platform to create a PlayStation Network account to keep playing the game. There was a huge backlash to this move that was later scrapped, and Helldivers 2 was subsequently unavailable for purchase because of it in many countries at the time. While Stellar Blade doesn't require a PSN account to be playable on PC, one of the new costumes being added to the game can only be unlocked when a Steam account is linked to a Sony service. It's also worth noting that PSN isn't available in the list of countries impacted. Let me just finish this article, and I'm going to kind of comment on this. For everyone else looking to pick up the action game when it arrives next month, Stellar Blade will offer quite a few graphical enhancements, support for upscaling tech like NVIDIA DLSS 4 and AMD FSR 3 will be available, and there will be lots of new content as well. A total of 25 new nano suits are being added to the game, and if you feel like testing your skills, you can fight Xeon's Guardian Man in the boss challenge mode. I'm looking forward to doing that, by the way. PS5 owners can also get this content as it will be added to Stellar Blade for free in the upcoming update. So first of all, what I don't understand is why Sony is feeling the need to add this PSN requirement to other platforms like PC and Steam. We see that way too much. You know how many times I'll go on the Steam forums, like look at reviews for a game, and I like, for example, for a lot of EA games, and when they had Origin was a big thing, people complained about that. Ubisoft has its own launcher. I hear people complain about that. We don't need 50 launchers or to link all these different accounts. Just let us download the game on Steam and play the game. It makes no sense to me that Sony wants to keep pushing this PlayStation Network thing. And let me go ahead and get into another thing, speaking of that. So this is the Stellar Blade page, the Steam page, right? Looking pretty good. There is one notable thing that I see that I really can't stand. Right here, it looks like it's got DRM management, the de novo anti-tamper. Now, my understanding is that tends to bog your system down. It really does affect the performance of your game. Again, it's completely unnecessary. Look, in this big fight against piracy, I feel like these companies are just taking way too many extra steps for something that someone eventually is going to get around anyway. So now all they're doing is hurting the customer base. But I digress. I'm going to go through the requirements for this game here, just so in case anyone's interested. Interestingly enough, the minimum requirement here is an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060, the 6GB version, or an AMD Radeon RX 580. That's interesting. Looks like they recommend a 2060 Super, which luckily, you know, I have a 3080 Ti, so I'm good there. Let's see here. Minimum recommended 7th gen processor, i5, recommended as an 8th gen processor. Okay, not much of a leap there. Let's see, or a Ryzen 3rd gen. Looks like minimum Ryzen 5 1st gen, so that's interesting. Anyway, it doesn't look like it's got too demanding of graphics. But let me go ahead and get back real quick into this whole deal with Stellar Blade and all these controversies. Sony seems to be the worst enemy when it comes to shift up in this game. I know a lot of people will argue that it was Sony that did some of the original censoring on the outfits. Now, I, for one, I can't say one way or the other on that. I can understand where people are coming from with the censorship. However, I was looking at it from a stance of at least we were getting a game like this during the time that it came out, so I didn't complain too much. This was my game of the year when it came out, and I will be buying this on PC to support Shift Up, even though unfortunately Sony's involved. I know I've had some people say, you know, it's too bad that Shift Up got involved with Sony in the first place. And it was them that kind of helped make the game. I think we have the game because of Sony, although I guess one could argue that if it wasn't Sony, I bet you there would have been someone interested in picking up this game. Because I know that when Shift Up was developing this game, they had a reputation for mobile games, and a lot of developers in that area, especially in South Korea, were afraid to make console games at the time because it just wasn't financially lucrative. Well, Shift Up kind of proved everyone wrong. So anyway, I don't know about you guys. Leave a comment below what you guys think, but I'm so tired of Sony pushing this PlayStation Network thing on other platforms. I'm just tired of these big publishers pushing some of the stuff they're pushing in general. But that's all I've got for you today. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.